Breaking the chains. Matthew grew up in a house where silence was louder than words. His guardians, Aunt Clara and Uncle Harold, were stern, demanding perfection in everything he did. A slight mistake brought scolding, sometimes harsh words that lingered in his mind like echoes in an empty hall. Uncle Harold, "You'll never amount to anything if you don't get it right the first time." Uncle Harold would bark when Matthew faltered, his voice heavy with disappointment. Clara, though quieter, was no less strict. Her icy stares were enough to send shivers down Matthew's spine. He didn't know better. To him, this was normal. He thought all kids had to tiptoe around their guardians, afraid of making a wrong move. His friends' laughter felt foreign to him. He didn't know how to smile without fearing judgment. At school, he kept to himself, assuming his quietness was just part of who he was. One evening, while Matthew was completing his homework at the kitchen table, the radio played softly in the background. He wasn't paying attention until the voice of a motivational speaker caught his ear. Motivational speaker. Low self-esteem isn't something you're born with. It's a result of the environment you grew up in. If you identify with 7 or more of these 12 behaviors, you need to seek help. Matthew froze, his pencil hovering above his notebook. As the speaker listed the behaviors, self-doubt, fear of failure, perfectionism, inability to accept compliments, his chest tightened. Each one felt like a mirror reflecting his life. By the end of the segment, Matthew counted 11 traits he resonated with. For the first time, he questioned his reality. Is this really normal, he wondered. His heart pounded as he made a decision. The next day, he approached the school counselor who directed him to a local doctor specializing in mental health. Sitting in Dr. Taylor's cozy office, Matthew felt exposed but also hopeful. Dr. Taylor, a warm man with kind eyes, listened patiently as Matthew spoke about his upbringing. Dr. Taylor, Matthew, what you experienced wasn't normal. It was emotionally damaging, but the fact that you're here shows incredible strength. Therapy became a weekly ritual. Through cognitive behavioral therapy, Matthew learned to recognize the negative patterns his guardians had instilled in him. Slowly, he began replacing self-criticism with self-compassion. Dr. Taylor encouraged him to try journaling. At first, Matthew found it difficult to express himself, but over time, the words flowed. Writing became his outlet, a way to process his pain and rediscover his worth. By the time Matthew graduated high school, he had grown stronger. He moved out of Clara and Harold's house to attend college, working part-time to support himself. Though the transition was daunting, it was liberating. In college, Matthew discovered a passion for public speaking. Encouraged by a professor, he joined a debate club. Standing before an audience terrified him at first, but with practice, he found his voice. For the first time, people listened to him, not to criticize, but to appreciate his perspective. After graduating with a degree in psychology, Matthew decided to dedicate his life to helping others who struggled like he once did. He became a motivational speaker, sharing his story to inspire hope and resilience. Matthew, your past doesn't define you. It shapes you, yes, but you have the power to rewrite your story. His words resonated deeply and his authenticity drew people to him. He started a podcast, wrote a book, and even opened a support center for young adults dealing with self-esteem issues. Now a successful motivational speaker, author, and founder of a thriving mental health organization, Matthew had built a life he once thought impossible. He was married to Emma, a compassionate woman who understood his past and supported his dreams. Together, they had 2 children, Sophie and Ethan. Matthew was determined to give his children the love and encouragement he never received. He celebrated their achievements, comforted them in their failures, and always reminded them of their worth. Sophie, Daddy, why do you always tell us you're proud of us, Matthew? Because I never want you to forget how special you are, no matter what. As he walked out of her room, he reflected on his journey. The scars of his childhood would always be a part of him, but they no longer defined him. He had turned his pain into strength, his struggles into a story of triumph. Matthew's life was proof that healing was possible, that even the deepest wounds could be mended with time, effort, and love. And as he stood on stage before a packed auditorium, sharing his story once again, he knew he was living the life he was always meant to have. Matthew, Your past is a chapter, not the whole book. You have the pen. Write your own ending.